Sunday evening, June 15, 2026. Donald Trump types 4 words on social media. The deal is done. Almost instantly, global markets surge and oil prices crash. Across the Atlantic, European leaders praise the news. The G7 summit in France erupts into cautious celebration. The world is cheering the end of a devastating 109-day military conflict. Yet, for the last 3.5 months, the United States government almost never explicitly called it a war. The United States government moved from 900 strikes to a peace celebration without a single congressional vote or a public release of the agreement's text. For 109 days, American forces unleashed a torrent of bombs, ships, and aircraft carriers against Iran. All of this unfolded without a single sustained national conversation about casualties or a congressional mandate. Even now, the actual text of the highly praised peace agreement remains heavily classified. The country is celebrating the end of the largest American military operation in decades, without knowing a single term of the peace, or what was sacrificed to get it. To understand what ended, we have to look at how it started. On the night of February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched coordinated strikes across major Iranian hubs. They called it Operation Epic Fury. The opening salvo struck the very top of the regime, killing Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei in the first few hours of the operation. This map tracks the sheer volume of the initial assault. U.S. and Israeli forces executed nearly 900 strategic strikes against missile sites and military infrastructure in a single 12-hour window. The bombardment carried an immediate civilian toll. When a missile struck a girls' school adjacent to a naval base in Minab, 170 people were killed. Just 1 day prior, Trump had publicly stated he expected to sit down with Iran for negotiations. By the following evening, hundreds of bombs were falling. The sudden shift shattered any remaining global trust in American diplomatic signaling. The groundwork for this collision was laid nearly half a century ago. Since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, America and Iran have existed in a constant state of mutual hostility and distrust. When the 2015 JCPOA nuclear agreement eventually collapsed, Iran rapidly accelerated its uranium enrichment. By early 2026, intelligence from Washington and Jerusalem concluded the regime was only weeks away from producing a nuclear weapon. The window for diplomacy was declared exhausted. The preemptive strike began. In response to the bombings, Iran targeted a vital global artery. They partially closed the 21-mile-wide Strait of Hormuz, effectively choking off 20% of the world's daily oil supply. This chart illustrates the immediate economic shockwave. Look at this 75% spike in the cost of motor and base oils, matching the exact timeline of the 109-day conflict. The conflict weaponized the global supply chain, forcing every global citizen to participate through the pressure of hyperinflation. The ceasefire that finally paused the combat wasn't brokered by the United Nations or Western allies. The talks were mediated entirely by Pakistan and Qatar. Trump immediately claimed the victory, authorizing the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and the removal of the United States naval blockade. He told the world's commercial vessels to, quote, "start your engines." The agreement establishes a 60-day extension of the ceasefire, creating a temporary pause for future negotiations rather than a permanent peace treaty. This checklist outlines what the deal accomplishes and ignores. While commerce resumes, there are glaring omissions: no limits on ballistic missiles, proxy networks, or the nuclear program itself. Furthermore, immediate sanctions relief injects fresh capital into the regime, while its dangerous capabilities remain unregulated. The agreement doesn't resolve the 3 core threats that triggered the bombing in the first place. It merely defers them to a later date, while resupplying the adversary during the pause. There is also a notable absence from the negotiating table. Israel, whose cities absorbed Iranian missile fire for weeks during the campaign, is not a party to this agreement. And while politicians in Washington take a victory lap, the human toll is quietly filed away. Across the region, thousands are dead, and millions more have been displaced by the fighting. Modern geopolitical peace often requires ignoring ongoing regional devastation and the alienation of vital military allies in favor of a quick diplomatic win. The formal signing ceremony is set for June 19th in Switzerland. The moment ink touches paper, a 60-day countdown begins for the actual negotiations. Experts have seen this cycle before: a historic nuclear pact in 2015, abandoned in 2018. Now, after a grueling war, the world celebrates a new pause. This leaves intelligence analysts grappling with one definitive question: what happens when the 60-day deadline arrives and the nuclear issue remains unsolved? Delaying a conflict is not the same thing as ending it. As the ships begin moving through the Strait of Hormuz again, the world sits on a 60-day timer, waiting to see if the bombs will return.